Okay, now please let everybody in. Virginia, the meeting is yours.
Great, thank you. And thank you and welcome everyone who's here tonight for our special meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners. This is a public workshop, but also a special meeting. So the commissioners will be on at the meeting as well. And I'd like to convene the meeting at 6:04 tonight, July 8th, 2021. Roll call, please, Melanie.
President Shane Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Ryring,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke.
Present.
Great, so we have a quorum. General Manager Pruitt, if other commissioners are able to make it, we'll just, have them join us. But we
Very
do
well.
have a quorum. So I will now open this part of the meeting to public comments. This is public comment for items that are not on the agenda.
We have no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then let's move on. I will close public comment and let's move on to our discussion for the Oyster Point Marina replacement project for docks 12 through 14. And this is the public workshop part of this. So I am going to turn the meeting over to John Moran, our Director of Operations. John?
Yes, I'd like to restate what President Crawley already mentioned. We'd like to thank everybody, every member of the public that's tuned in tonight. We're going to be speaking about the Oyster Point development of new docks, replacements of docks 12, 13, and 14. Little history about the district real quick for those of you that may not be familiar with all the aspects of the district. The district does operate two marinas, one Pillar Point Harbor with 369 slips near Half Moon Bay in El Granada. That marina is largely commercial fishing fleet with 3 fish buyers at the end of our commercial fishing pier. And then we also have ABC docks, which are largely recreational docks. And the 3 docks that we're talking about replacing tonight are actually at Oyster Point Marina. Oyster Point Marina has 408 slips and is largely recreational for recreational vessels. Oyster Point Marina is not actually owned by the San Mateo County Harbor District. We manage it through an MOU for the city of South San Francisco. We do own Pillar Point Harbor. The MOU, our agreement with South San Francisco, requires that the district manage and upkeep all of the docks, but we did make a commitment to replace dock 12 first, then docks 13 and 14. However, for the economy scale and to get the project completed faster and more fiscally responsibly, in addition to permitting agencies like programmatic permitting, and it's just far less expensive to do everything all at once. We plan to replace docks 12, 13, and 14 all at the same time. Tonight we've got our design engineering team, Moffitt and Nickel, who the district brought on board through a public process of a request for proposal. Moffitt and Nickel are the ones that won the request for proposal, and they've been working on this project for us, designing some marina replacement for dock 12, 13, and 14 layout design alternatives. We've narrowed it down to basically 2, one of which we favor just based on all the research that Moffitt and Nickel has done and all of the demand research that the district has observed and what 2 other consultants had previously come up with in their studies as well. So right now I'd like to turn it over to Neil Nichols, who's going to kind of go over the alternatives that we've come up with thus far and explain a little bit about the project. Please hold all of your questions to the end, and we'll give ample time to answer any questions you may have. and we're recording this, so we'd like any of your input as well. Neil?
All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, hopefully you guys can see the start of my presentation.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you all for attending again. As John said, my name is Neil Nichols. I'm with Moffitt & Nichol. We've worked on a number of projects at our Oyster Point, most recently the Dock 11 and Dock 8 replacement projects. We also worked on the wave attenuators that are out at the ends of docks 11 through 14, and had some work also at the ferry terminal and dredging in the marina. So this is another one that we're just looking forward to working with the Harbor District and you all with. So just for a quick orientation, the project is off at the east end up against the breakwater, docks 12, 13, and 14. And you can see the dock 11 next to it, which was replaced back in, I think, 2013, along with 8. And around the same time, the ferry terminal was constructed. I just wanted to start with what the project objectives were as we started and talked with the Harbor District. So these are the ones that I just want to focus on. There's other smaller ones or lesser important ones, but these are the main ones. So first, we want to maintain the same dock footprint that we already have. And the reason for this is because the wave attenuators aren't going to leave. They're going to stay there. So we have a fixed area to work within the shoreline and the wave attenuators at 12, 13, and 14. We wanted to accommodate wider vessels, wider beams, just because the trend in boats are to get a little bit wider, and we want to be well positioned to accommodate that in the future. Obviously, want to upgrade our utilities just to get more modern and match what has been done recently at Dock 11. We have side ties right now, or at least a side tie along Dock 11. You can kind of see it there in the background a little bit. But the Harbor District has wanted to look at the opportunity for another side tie. So we did look at a number of locations at 12, 13, and 14, and we'll get to the ones that we think are recommended in this presentation. Certainly want to deal with high tides. The extreme tides that we see annually are the king tides. Happens at least once or twice a year, sometimes up to 4 or 5 times a year, just depending. But we do want to look at what's the 100-year event as well, and include that and an allowance for sea level rise in the future. One thing that we're including is an accessible kayak launch. We've looked at it at various locations, but I'll show you where it's going to be located on Dock 14. But it'll be an accessible launch. Overall, the appearance of the new docks is intended to match what we have at Dock 11. It's concrete dock. It has been well received, and for continuity, I guess, and consistency, we want to match what we have out there at 11. Part of our scope was to look at whether dredging was necessary. The short answer is yes, and there will be a slide or two at the end that will show you the extent of that, but it is necessary. And in general, for a marina facility like this, what the Division of Boating and Waterways, what DBA typically requires is a minimum 30-year service life. We shouldn't have any problem with that with a concrete dock system. So those are the objectives. The first one I wanted to look at, hopefully this isn't too confusing, but this is looking at berth widths. Because we have a fixed footprint to work within, if we want to have wider slips for wider beams, you're going to lose slips. So it's important that we kind of think through what are the target widths that we want to incorporate. So this visual is split up in 2 sides. The left side is for what we call a double finger type of slip. So you have a finger on each side of your vessel, and then we have on the right side the single finger where you only have one. So 2 vessels share a berth, or 2 vessels share a slip. And for instance, the length of the vessels on the left-hand side for a 40-foot vessel, if you have 2 fingers, you typically need a 16-foot width, and that's according to DBAW. So this is based on DBAW statewide guidelines. If you wanted to have only a single finger, you just double the size. So you're at 32 feet. 2 vessels can use that berth. So these are standards that are statewide. It's probably what was used to some degree in the existing facility. But we wanted to look at wider beams, so we were looking at more of a nationwide type of guideline, and that's by ASCE, so American Society of Civil Engineers. And those berth widths are shown in green and blue. And you can see they're wider, and they also provide a range. So in some cases, significantly wider, just to encompass all the different types of boating throughout the country. And for instance, the 40-footer could range from 16 to 18.5 feet. So what we decided to do, and this is talked about this with John and Jim, was shown in X's. Those are the widths that we think are appropriate. There is a range of some of them, just depending on how much space we have. But it generally falls closer to the ASCE or within the ASCE guidelines. So quite a bit wider than what DBAW requires and even what's out there right now. Now, this slide is just to illustrate visually the difference. So this is a before and after for dock 11 with the old timber docks. Looks like a steel gangway on the left, and what's on the right is the concrete docks. Still have concrete piles, but they're a little bit bigger and a little bit taller to accommodate higher water surface elevations. And the gangway is now a aluminum gangway that doesn't allow objects larger than 4 inches to pass through, so that meets accessibility guidelines. So just for a visual clue, this is what it would look like for 12 through 14. So this is the layout of the existing facility right now. We color-coded the vessel slips lengths by length, so you can kind of see the distribution throughout 12 through 14. The heavy border there shows which docks or what the project footprint will be. It includes the docks and the access onto land through those fixed piers. So right now, we have 96 slips, varying from 36 up to 65 feet. And also want to point out that you can see the wave attenuators at the end of docks 12 through 14, and the slips that are part of those wave attenuators, those will remain. So it's only what's within this border.
Neil, you might just explain to people exactly what a wave attenuator is real quick.
Yeah, the wave attenuators were put in conjunction with the changes that were made for the ferry terminal. So back when the ferry terminal was proposed, the Corps of Engineers had to modify the outer breakwater, and they had to take some of the old breakwater out and modify it. So there was going to be more potential for wave activity inside the marina. So we looked at a number of ways to mitigate that. And the best solution was to put these large, deep concrete floats, much deeper than what's necessary for a dock. And we put them at the ends of dock 11, 12, 13, 14. So they're wide, they're deep, and they absorb and block the waves that are coming in through the larger opening that was made to accommodate ferries. So you wouldn't really notice it out there. It just looks like a really big dock, but it goes very deep. They're about a little bit more than 5 feet draft. And they have a lot of piles to hold them in place because they're subjected to waves, and they take the brunt of the waves so that the rest of the marina is more calm. Is that good? Okay. So we looked at alternatives, a number of alternatives. I lost count, but we settled on 2, as John said. And this is the first one where we put the side ties on dock 13. The main reason for this was there's a large opening between the wave attenuators of dock 12 and dock 13. So this connection to the channel is the widest of all three of the fairways. So it kind of makes logical sense that that would be a good place to bring in your larger vessels. We have a nice distribution now. You can notice that we got rid of all the 36-foot slips. So we lose 22 slips, but we gain a bunch of 40s and 45s. And we lost a small amount of 50s and a fair amount of 60s. And we gained 3 or 4 larger vessels along the side ties. So overall, we lost 20 slips, give or take. And the benefit is you can accommodate wider vessels for a long time. So this is alternative 1 with side ties on the west side. Alternative 2 is very similar because the other best place to put it is on the east side of dock 13. This one's really good too. I don't think I've given this one enough credit, but this is a very simple, just mirror image of alternative 1. The opening between docks 13 and 14 is a little bit narrower, so that is maybe a con. But there also is a very nice wide fairway in this alternative. So there are benefits to it, and it has exact same slip counts. So it's basically, I'll go back to this one. That's 13 west, 13 east. So very, very similar, and they're both, I think, very feasible. Also want to point out that in the elbow of dock 14, there's this little kayak facility that we're proposing, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, we're going to be looking at replacing the access to the docks, obviously. Right now, we have some issues with flooding primarily, or maybe worse at dock 14. I think all of them are deteriorating just due to age. There's some concrete cracking that I think has been repaired at some point in the past. We also have slope issues with the shorter gangways than modern lengths. So all three of these things we would like to address with our proposed design. So what I am showing here in the middle is a plan view of a typical access platform. In the middle, you have a 20-foot by 15-foot concrete platform supported on concrete piles. Not that different than what we have right now, but shorter. And there'll be the gate, access gate on the water side of the platform. But there's also going to be room for electrical equipment, shown there in the gray rectangle, and some room for garbage bins and recycle bins and such. So it's kind of out of the way, but supported at the highest point on a nice stable structure. We have a gangway leading down to the docks. Those will be typically 50 foot long for docks 12 and 13, be 80 feet long at dock 14, so a little bit wider also. And going toward land will be what we call a gang plank, but it's really essentially the same type of structure as the gangway. It just won't have wheels on the end. They'll be sitting on a skid on the abutment on land. So what we're trying to do here is accommodate the higher water levels. And one thing I would like to do is, in a sense, over-design this platform so that if we ever do need to raise it, we can just detach everything, raise it up, let's say 6 inches or something, and reattach it. And if we need to accommodate actual sea level rise as it occurs, that we'd be able to do that. So that's something I'd like to accommodate. And here's a side view of what the platform would look like. You see the gangway going down to the docks, hinged on the platform, and then a short gang plank going toward land, hinged on the platform as well. And what I'm trying to indicate here with the elevation set at 12.5, it's quite a bit higher than what the 100-year extreme water level event would be. Right now, that's approximately 10.7. And if you include 6 inches of sea level rise, we're still we still have quite a bit of freeboard above that. And the reason why we're putting it that high is at that high water level, we're basically flat with the gangway. So it's not gonna be a problem with the gangway going uphill too much. It also allows future raising of land as we need to, that the platform won't be at a low point. For the kayak launch, this is a zoomed in view of the elbow of dock 14 in the upper right. Just a couple of things I want to point out. This is not going to be part of the concrete dock. This will be probably a vendor item. That's something we can just bring out and put into that kind of unusable area in the corner of the dock, dock 14. The three things I wanted to include in it are indicated by numbers 2, 3, and 4. I want to have a sloped launch kind of platform, so you're not floating in the water while you're getting in and out. I'd like it to be a sloping, like a 10% slope, so you can get in and out while it's on the slope, and you just kind of pull yourself and slide out. To do that, you need overhead rails. Those are shown with number 3. It can be fully overhead, or it can be just off to the side. And a lot of vendors are now providing accessible benches that are either fixed or extendable, so that you can get into the kayak. And that the example shown on the bottom right is we had 2 of these recently put in at facilities in Bodega Bay, and the bench seat has a little extendable platform that you can go out on and then drop directly into your kayak. Here's another picture of dock 11, just to give a visual of what we're planning at docks 12 to 14. Again, the concrete guide piles, these are larger. And in the knees will be dock boxes and utilities. We'll use the same pedestals, same type of hose bib kind of location and such. So this is just another way to show what will it look like at docks at 12 to 14. As for dredging, we just did a bathymetric survey a few weeks ago, and you can clearly see the parts that are maintained by WIDA for the ferry. Those are the aqua and blues. Those are deeper. They're authorized to a minus 10 foot mean lower low water elevation. The greens, yellows, reds, those are the shallower elevations. That's the part that we're dealing with. We're in the past authorized to minus 8, so 2 feet shallower. And this next slide shows the depths at mean low water. So at a low water, this is how much water you have. You see a number of 4s, 5s, 6s. Several feet need to be dredged out throughout, not just dock 12, 13, 14, but also 11 and the public guest dock at dock 8. So for dredging, I've been showing the minus 8, which is what's been done in the past for maintenance dredging. So that's one option. There's also the option of deepening to minus 10, which would match what the WIDA ferry terminal folks have. So you could essentially dredge the whole East Basin to minus 10. Benefit of that is you can accommodate vessels with deeper draft. You can have more time before you have to dredge, and it would affect, other vessels that have normal draft. So there are some benefits. There's a significant cost because you have more volume, and permitting costs as well. So this for maintenance dredging. For maintenance dredging, we have about 59,000 would be the authorized permitted volume. You won't actually get that much because a dredger won't go get all the overdredge, so there'll probably be about 10,000 less than that. But that's what the authorized volume would be. For deepening, we get closer to 83,000. Again, probably 10,000 less than that would actually get dredged. And the net difference is about 24,000 yards. So it's not a huge volume difference, but the benefit may be worth it for the benefits. The extra cost for permitting is a one-time cost, and the cost for the volume disposal would just be every episode that you dredge. So that's all I had for my presentation. So I can take any questions at this point. So thank you very much.
I'll jump in real quick just to expand a little bit on what Neil explained in the presentation. We have experienced a high demand on dock 11, our current only concrete dock that's out there, the one that's immediately east of the new ferry terminal that Moffett and Nickel also worked with us on replacing. All of the docks in the East Basin, the docks 12, 13, and 14, just as dock 11, are over 30 years old, so do need to be replaced. And again, we've got a commitment with the City of South San Francisco to replace them, and that's what we're moving forward with now. Dock 11, the concrete dock, has a waiting list, and largely we're trying to duplicate that with the double finger pier slips, which every boater loves, and we want to obviously increase demand. The rest of our marina is between 65 and 70% occupied, whereas, like I say, dock 11 is 100% occupied, and we have a wait list. So the demand for slips very similar to the concrete docks on dock 11, and we have a great demand for the side ties that we have at dock 11. That's why we are discussing and have determined that it would be beneficial for the district to have the flexibility of the side ties, not only for the larger boats, but also for 40, 50-foot catamarans as well. And there are more, as Neil said, wider and wider vessels. As time goes on, vessels are just becoming wider and wider, beamier and beamier. All right, any questions from the public?
John, I think we have someone who, I think it was Steve Wrestler, who has written a question in the chat. Will boat owners need to move their boats during the dock replacement or dredging? So Steve, Mr. Wrestler, if you would like to ask the question, you can always raise your hand and we can unmute you if you choose to do that.
Yeah, I can just answer it right away. We're trying our best to relocate all vessels during the construction, so that as the project takes place, we would be leaving some of the docks in place. That was the original idea, but we're having to discuss now, because of the survey, the results of which we had the survey done 2 weeks ago, but we just got the results the day before yesterday. Because of the survey results, it may be that we need to remove all of the east docks at the same time. And if that is so, we would then try to accommodate all of the boats that we have to displace over into the west basin where possible. Now, I will say as well, just as I have in other projects, we will be discussing, of course, that all of our current residents will, like I said, we will try to accommodate them either on dock 11, or even if their boats are smaller than the slips that we have available on dock 11, we'll do everything possible to accommodate every boat that we've got currently, our long-term boats that we've got current, they've been with us for quite some time. We'll also then be, once the construction date is set, we'll be stopping any new boats from coming in unless they're just transients, so that we're not making commitments to any other boats. And there's also discussion of additional temporary docks that we could even move around as the dredging takes place. So we're looking at all those aspects, and we're very cognizant of the fact that that our tenants will be inconvenienced, during this project. But it has to be done, and we're hoping everybody will be understanding and excited that we are going to end up with all brand new concrete docks, which, as I've done in my past, we will of course be giving our tenants that were there prior to the construction the alternative to return if they had to be displaced, and we'll be giving them the best pick, if you will, as we move forward. That's answer your question, Steve. If not, raise your hand again.
I was curious, on the west docks are small, the east boats are big. How, are we just gonna have them stick out a little, or what do you think?
Well, Tom, historically, the east dock, closest to the entrance, the east docks, 11, 12, 13, and 14 have been our biggest boats, so that's what we're doing again. That's why we've eliminated some of the very small slips, which we're going to continue. Eventually we'll be replacing docks 1 through 6 over in the west basin as well. And those we plan to continue to be the smaller slips.
Okay, I was thinking the big boats into the west 1 through 6 slips, and was wondering how that was gonna work.
Yeah, we're not, this project doesn't address the docks 1 through 6 yet, because we're going to be doing this, doing the replacement of all the docks in phases, consistent with our agreement with South San Francisco.
Perfect, thanks.
John, if I may, I think the commissioner's questions related to during the construction, if we do take all 3 docks down, 12, 13, and 14, and we move the boats from 12, 13, and 14 over to 1 through 6, those slips are smaller. So what's the plan to move the larger boats over to the docks 1 through 6 as they are larger, and will we simply let them stick out further?
Oh, yeah, I understand that question. And again, like I had briefly mentioned before to Steve's question, that we're in discussion about how best to do that, but we've discussed potentially extensions to the docks in the East Basin, or even temporary docks in the East Basin, and even temporary docks that can be moved around during the dredge episodes in the West Basin. I'm sorry, in the East Basin. So to answer your question, I guess, Tom and Jim, we've not yet, we're going to do everything possible to maintain as many of the current tenants as we can. But this survey did reveal that we're going to have a much larger dredge episode than we had originally anticipated.
Well, I'm in favor of the larger episode because I think, as Moffett Nichols pointed out, get a lot out now while we have the permitting.
Yeah, that's the real advantage to getting as much sediment out as is possible when we have all of the demo already completed. So we basically have a large lake there once all of these docks have been removed. However, the wave attenuators, the large concrete structures at the end of docks 11, 12, and 13 and 14,
Yes.
those will remain in place. So those will still be a little bit of an obstacle for us to maximize the efficiency of the dredge episode, because the larger scows, hopper barges, won't be able to get between those wave attenuators. But it will still be much easier for a good and efficient dredge operation to occur once all of those docks, 12, 13, and 14 have been removed. Dock 11, of course, is we still have some areas we've discovered now that we really need to address in Dock 11, and Dock 11 is going to remain in place because it's a it's a newer concrete dock. Likewise, the guest dock, which is the one all the way to the west there, that Neil pointed out briefly, that dock as well has regretfully shoaled in some over toward the west side of it. The east side of it still has 10 feet because the last dredge episode that WETA conducted, we asked them to get over close to our guest dock, which they did, but they did not go under it or around to the other side of it, which needs to be done in this project.
I was going to betray my lack of knowledge on what we can do with those wave attenuators. Would it damage them, hurt them, or are we going to be able to put some like massive rings, hawsers, bollards, or something that would affix the barges, or is that not possible?
You mean that would like overnight when there's no dredge activity taking place where they could rest there?
Yes.
Yeah, or the dredge barges generally have from my experience have large pilings attached to their dredge barge, where they've got their excavator on. So once they move it into place, they drop those large steel piles, if you will, which put them in place where they don't really need to rest against anything like overnight.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I can also answer that. I mean, the spud piles will take care of the working barge with the equipment on it, but the dump scows will be smaller. Most likely, they'll fill them up every day and either park them out somewhere in the bay to transfer it to a larger barge, depending on where it's going. If it's going to go out to the ocean, or if it's going to go to Montezuma or something like that. So I don't think anything full will stay inside the marina, most likely. I think they'll take them out.
And the challenges that we're going to have with the size of equipment and such for the magnitude of the dredge operation that we're now aware is necessary. Moffett and Nickel are working on that now. Now, I believe everybody, Jim Merlo, who's on the line with us here tonight as well, has been at Oyster Point Marina for 18 years, has his finger on the pulse of our tenants. And I think that all of them at Oyster Point are very excited for us to be replacing docks 12, 13, and 14 with similar docks as 11. The concrete docks. We've already voiced this message to many of them, and I think everybody's real excited that we're going to be mimicking Dock 11 pretty much with the dock boxes, the electric pedestals, the lighthouse electric pedestals, etc. They and the placement of cleats. So I'm not really too surprised. I guess that there's not too many questions about what we're trying to discuss this evening. And of course, everybody's very excited about the wider double finger slips.
Are there any more comments from the public or any input?
I see Steve has another question regarding the
Infrastructure.
the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve, that's another project that we're looking at right now. And yes, we are looking at alternatives for helping our Wi-Fi, and even CCTV cameras, both at Pillar Point and Oyster Point.
I think Christina Fernandez would like to speak also from South San Francisco.
Hey, Christina, thank you. I didn't see your hand raised. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Good evening, President Chankarali, Vice President Ryrie, and Commissioners. Christina Fernandez, City of South San Francisco. We just wanted to thank you for this. Just thank you so much for your efforts at both marinas and for your ongoing collaborative partnership with the city. We really do appreciate it, and we're super excited to see this move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to speak or give your input? We can open it up to commissioner discussion and comments right now. And if the public chooses to give more input and comments, we can open it up at that point as well. So I'll open this up to commissioner comments. I know that Tom's made some comments. I don't know, Bill, if you have any comments or thoughts, or
Yeah.
Nancy?
Yeah,
Bill?
I just would like to thank our consultant for the presentation. It answered most of the questions I have. Just wanted to confirm the current elevation of the pads that the ramps will lie on going to the docks. Are those, do those need to be raised, or it sounds like they're going to, the current elevation does not need to be increased?
I'll answer that. And then Neil, if you want to chime in after I'm done. Bill, our dock 14, which is the furthest east dock right near the breakwater,
Mhm.
that landing to dock 14 has suffered from landfill subsidence and sea level rise. So that dock is challenged. So our plan is to raise the elevation at the entrance to the dock, so that our new ramp going up to the gates that lead out to the dock will be 30-year plus resilient to landfill subsidence and sea level rise. And then even our, we're in discussion now in the design with Moffett Nickel that even our landings where the gates are mounted over the water, those are going to have a opportunity to be raised should the need be later. But the docks 11, 12, and 13 are roughly the same elevation as is the Weta terminal, ferry terminal. And we're going to potentially raise those, maybe a matter of inches to ensure that they are at least the same elevation as the Weta terminal.
Very good. Thank you.
I apologize for logging in late. I got unexpectedly called to boat duty. Did I miss the presentation on the dredge spoils? Are they going offshore? Can we repurpose those on our side, or would that be too complicated?
Tom, I'll jump in and just say that we've just determined the dredge quantities that we're going to need to remove. And we plan to bring to the board on the 21st more information. We've just received a couple of days ago, we just received the results from the dredge survey. So we've just now determined how the magnitude of the dredge episode, the project, how much.
You're,
Don, you're frozen.
I think I understand we're going to get a presentation.
Yeah, I can try to take the baton and run with it. Yeah, so the volumes is a fairly significant volume. Right now, it's hard to say where it would go. In the past, I think the last time I got dredge is something like 2012, somewhere around then. And things have changed since then, so it's hard to just say whatever happened last time we'll be able to get it again. We're going to try, because I think what happened last time, it was allowed to go to Alcatraz, and that would be a great result if we could get that. That would only happen, I believe, is if we do a maintenance dredging. If we go deepening, you're going into material that's never been dredged, so highly unlikely, I'm guessing, that it would be allowed to go to Alcatraz. But until we know what is in the material, until you do the sediment testing, you won't know what the requirements are. So in either case, you're doing sediment testing. You can't get away from it. It's just how much and how deep do you test. So if you're just doing a maintenance dredge, you only test to, I think it's 6 inches below your target dredged area. But if you go deeping, obviously you got to go 2 feet deeper, or maybe even deeper than that, because they want to know what is there that has never been dredged before. If it ends up being the same, then maybe we'll be allowed to go to Alcatraz. Otherwise, your options most likely are going to be upland at Montezuma or to deep ocean. If you do deep ocean, you're going to have to transfer it to a bigger barge.
Okay.
I don't know how far you can take the little barge. Maybe you can go to Montezuma, but I doubt it. I think you would transfer either way. If you go to deep ocean or Montezuma, you'd probably transfer.
Excellent, thank you.
I don't see are there any other commissioner comments or input? If not, I'll open it up to public input and comments one more time. So if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, this is your time to do so. You can either raise your hand or type it in the chat space.
John Warren's back on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. Having a little technical problem. I caught Neil took over obviously for the more technical questions regarding the actual dredge process and what's allowed. I will say though that my understanding is, and again, we've not vetted it fully just because largely we've just determined the magnitude of the project, the dredge episode that's going to be necessary. But if we do decide to go with the -8 + 1, which may largely meet our needs, because we're very fortunate at Oyster Point that that the sediment does not fill in very quickly there, unlike many other places. So, but if we're able to go to the -8 + 1, which would be close to 9 feet anyway throughout the entire harbor, I believe that we're able to dispose of that material within the bay with our current expanding on the current permitting. Neil, you can expand on that if you like now. But again, we're going to be bringing on the 21st. We're going to be bringing to the full board more information about the dredge project and a proposal from Moffitt Nickel and some alternatives.
Great.
Oh, Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Commissioners
just
MP?
had another question. I don't know, it may be too early to hazard a guess at this, but does our consultant have any guess as to how long the duration of this project might be?
I don't know, John or Mr. Nichols, Neil?
I don't think we've gotten that far yet.
Okay.
So I think the questions, at least thus far, has been, do we do this all at once? Do we do this in pieces? So I think there's economies of scale doing it all at once versus doing it one dock, then two docks, or something like that. Dredging will be a lot easier having all three gone. That's the operational side of dredging will be easier, probably most likely less costly because the contractor can go faster. People are maybe more inconvenienced, but you'll get inconvenienced once rather than twice, maybe. So yeah, there's trade-offs.
Yeah, I'll
So
say,
my guess is it'll be done in one construction season, and it'll take 4 months, something like that, 6 months. I don't know.
yeah, I would say 6 months, Bill.
Oh, okay, thanks. I just wanted to guess, that's all.
Yeah, just from my
Yeah.
experience, a 6 month duration. I've been in similar projects before where we removed all the docks, dredged the entire area, and replaced the docks. Now, they're going to be working. The contractor that's brought on board through the invitation for bid process won't actually, be breaking ground until they've already got all the equipment in place and a plan for all the different episodes, including, all the equipment to do first the demo. Then they will be ready when the demo's done to immediately bring in the dredge equipment. Then when the dredge equipment is ready to be moved out, pilings then would be started to be driven. Potentially pilings will be driven even while dredging is still taking place. So they'll start putting in the pilings in areas that have already been dredged. Then the docks will already be, being manufactured and be floated and staged in the marina as well. So we're going to ensure, of course, that whoever wins the invitation for bid is capable of doing a professional job at the dock replacement, and we'll do that through our pre-qualification process, and we'll hope that it would be done within 6 months.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Raring, I see that you have your hand up.
Thank you, President Crawley. Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, I have intermittent connectivity here tonight, and I dropped off the call a couple times. But so I may have missed this, but did we discuss the budget for this?
Jim, I don't know if you can hear me, or Julie, do you have,
We haven't discussed the budget as of yet. We will be coming to the board on the 21st of July because of the increased dredging requirements to seek the board's guidance and direction on which way the board wishes us to go with respect to that dredging and increase in scope of the project. And we'll definitely get in a little bit more in depth on that project, right on the cost. Right now, we're still in the design and engineering phase. And as of right now, we're still within budget. But again, we're coming to you in a few weeks to reevaluate that based on what we discovered during our surveys.
Thank you, Jim.
You're on mute, Virginia.
sorry. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Okay, I see a hand raised from a member of the public. So I'll take public comment and questions now. John Ullum. Melanie.
He actually, let me send him, he should be able to unmute himself. Okay.
There you go. I just checked in, so I might have missed something, but has there been any discussion of who's going to pay for this and where the funding is going to come from? It sounds like a pretty expensive project, and I kind of missed out on the beginning there, but it sounds like you need to dredge it even more than you thought you needed to, or something else has come up. So where is that money coming from, and does the Harbor District actually have the wherewithal to take care of this? in light of the deteriorating infrastructure situation at Pillar Point, and it's fairly deteriorated out where you're working now. Thanks.
Emma, Julie, I think you responded. I think you may have answered that question when you answered Commissioner Meyer's question. So I don't know if you'd like to elaborate or repeat what you said.
I can elaborate somewhat on that. Just at the last board meeting, the Harbor Board of Commissioners approved the 2021-2022 budget and 5-year capital improvement project, which included the replacements of docks 12, 13, and 14. And that money that was approved for funding this project is in the district's budget, and the capital is available to execute that project. The increased funding, if any, required for the dredging will be discussed on the 21st once we have a better understanding of the scope. Again, we just got the results of that survey 2 days ago, and we're working with our consultant to develop the scope of that and any additional costs that may incur. And that'll be coming back before the board on the 21st of July.
Any other public comments or questions? Or commissioner comments or questions now? I see John Olam has another question or comment.
Thanks. I guess I didn't realize you'd already approved the budget for this one. Has it been decided what kind of customer those docks are being aimed at? In the past, they were talking about 60-foot yachts, and because that was what people wanted, and that was what would generate the kind of revenue that would pay for the project. But now, in light of the fact there is no fuel dock out there, and it's pretty obvious that people have been watching that there is no agreement or plan to put a fuel dock out there. Is this an actually good investment on the part of the Harbor District, considering it is an enterprise district, which is supposed to at least try to break even on the investments that it makes? And again, in light of a lot of the infrastructure at both marinas has 0 to 5 years left on it, it seems that it can. And then I would add into that what happened out in Miami was due to lack of funds to deal with issues they knew they had. And you've got a lot of infrastructure out there. Some of it is said you got to replace immediately. I'm not really seeing where the money's coming from or who's paying for it in this light. Thank you.
President Chen Corrali, I'll address the size of the slip.
Okay.
The size of vessel we're looking at berthing in this area has been considered. We looked at it, existing surveys of current slips available in the Bay Area and what slips are underutilized, what slips are in short supply. And we tried to best integrate that information into the size of vessel that we can fit at our facility based on our dock design. So that was all considered and integrated into the design of our new floating docks as presented in the PowerPoint earlier in this workshop, which was available online on our website if you want to review it.
Thank you, Jim. Last call for commissioner comments or questions. I don't see any hand. I'm going to take one more public comment from John Olam.
Thank you, President Corrali. I guess the question that hasn't been addressed yet is the matter of the fuel dock. I know I missed a presentation and I'm willing to go back and look at that to see what kind of boats you want off there. But are they the kind of people that are going to want to have to go a half hour to fuel up? And do they have other options that they would take before they would ever consider taking their boat to Oyster Point? Is there any kind of plan to deal with the fact there is no fuel dock out there? And Commissioner Matoush has made clear that it's a problem. Thanks.
This is John Moran. I would just say to Mr. Olam's question that I believe a reasonable person could again assume, as I said earlier in the presentation, that if we are designing the new docks 12, 13, and 14 to be very much like dock 11, brand new concrete floating docks, and dock 11 is 100% occupied now with no fuel dock and a wait list, that there's a high likelihood again that docks 12, 13, and 14 will also have adequate demand, as has been predicted by the previous studies done and Moffitt and Nichols' current studies that made the dock layout what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Okay, it is 7:05. I don't see any more hands raised, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here tonight. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email General Manager Pruitt. So this meeting is adjourned. Well, actually, we need to do a roll call, Melanie. So really quickly, there's a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Matoush and a second by Commissioner Zimke. Let's do a roll call, please.
President Giancarlo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Great. The meeting is adjourned at 7:06. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you to John Moran and Jim Pruitt for their work. And thank you, Mr. Nichols.
I didn't get any
You're
thanks.
welcome.
Did ask any questions?